Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Giri Varadari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Giri Varadari, Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Yasoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Bonachari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Girivardhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Girivardhari, Yasoda Nandan, Brajajana Ranjana, Yasoda Nandana, Brajajana Ranjana, Jamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava, Kunja Bihari, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribraja Kacharya Astutada Satashi Shrimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Lila Pravishtam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribraja Kacharya Astutada Satashi Shrimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
Nandakoti Vaishnava Brinda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai.
Jai.
Namesake of Holy Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidvaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai.
Jai.
Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani Ki Jai, Shri Radha Surat Bihari Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Sankirtan Chakra Ki Jai, Transcendental Distribution Ki Jai, Go Premanandi Hari Hari Bol, all glories to the symbol devotees. All glories to the symbol devotees, all glories to the symbol devotees, all glories to Guru Shiguranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So reading from 10th Canto, Chapter 8, Text 18 and 19. Let's see. Try to repeat if you can. Well, I'll just read the Sanskrit so we won't have that delay. Ya etasmin mahabhaga pritim kurvanti manava Narayo bi bhavantyetan Vishnu pakshan ivashura. Word for word. Yea. Repeat.
Yea.
Those persons who.
Those persons who.
Etasmin unto this child.
Unto this child.
Mahabhaga.
Mahabhaga.
Very fortunate.
Very
Very
fortunate.
fortunate.
Pritim.
Pratim.
Affection.
Affection.
Purvanti.
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 Execute.
Execute.
Manava.
Manava.
Such persons.
Such
Such
persons.
persons.
Na.
No.
Na.
Not.
Not.
Na.
Arya.
Arya.
The enemies.
The enemies.
Abhivavanti.
Purvanti.
Do overcome.
Do
To
overcome.
overcome.
Etan.
Etam.
Those who are attached to Krishna.
Those who are
Those who are
attached to
attached to
Krishna.
Krishna.
Vishnu pakshan.
Vishnu
Vishnu
Pakshan.
Pakshan.
The demigods.
The demigods.
Yes.
Who always have Lord Vishnu on their side.
Who always
Who
have
always
Lord
have Lord
Vishnu
Vishnu on
on
their
their
side.
side.
Iva.
Eva.
Like.
Like
Like.
Asura.
Asura.
Demons.
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 Translation. Demons, asuras cannot harm the demigods, who always have Lord Vishnu on their side. Similarly, any person or group attached to Krishna is extremely fortunate because such persons are very much affectionate toward Krishna. They cannot be defeated by demons like the associates of Kamsa or by the internal enemies, the senses. The next verse. I'm just going to read straight through it. Tasman nanda majo yamte narayana samogunai Shriya kirt yanubhavena gopaya swa samahita. Let's go to the translation. In conclusion, therefore, O Nanda Maharaj, this child of yours is as good as Narayan in his transcendental qualities, opulence, name, fame, and influence. He is exactly like Narayan. You should all raise this child very carefully and cautiously. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai Prabhupada.
In this verse, the word Narayan, Sama, is significant. Narayan has no equal. He is Asamurdva. No one is equal to him. And no one is greater than he is, as stated in Shastra. Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudradi Daivatai Samatvainaiva Viksheta Sapashandi Bhavet Dhruvam. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 18, text 116. One who equates Narayan even with great exalted demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma is a pasandi and agnostic. No one can equal Narayan. Nonetheless, Gargamuni used the word sama, meaning equal, because he wanted to treat Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had become Nanda Maharaj's son. Gargamuni wanted to impress upon the mind of Nanda Maharaj, your worshipable deity, Narayan, is so pleased with you that he has sent you a son almost equal to him in qualifications. Therefore, you may designate your son with a similar name, such as Mukunda or Madhusudan. But you must always remember that whenever you want to do something very good, there will be many hindrances. Therefore, you should raise and protect this child with great care. If you can protect this child very cautiously, as Narayan always protects you, the child will be as good as Narayan. Gargamuni also indicated that although the child was exactly qualified like Narayan, he would enjoy more than Narayan as a rasa vihari, the central enjoyer of the rasa dance. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sam Brahma Sevyamanam, Brahma Samhita 529. He would be served by many gopis who would all be as good as the goddess of fortune. Omagana Timiranda Sajananjanan Salakaya Chakshu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shiva Sarigo Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you all for being here today. We had a wonderful meeting last night with devotees from Philadelphia discussing how we can work together to spread Krishna consciousness, especially in your area, and utilizing the resources and the talents of all the wonderful devotees there. So thanks to all the devotees who participated, and we'll keep you all updated. So today's verse, 2 verses and purports, or one purport. In this purport that we read, the thing that stood out to me, which we'll try to discuss today, is the idea of protecting Krishna. And when I thought about it, it's like, how do you think in terms of protecting the Supreme Personality of Godhead? He is all-powerful. Everything emanates from him. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matat sarvam prabhartite. All the spiritual energies, all the material energies emanate from Krishna. No one can defeat him, as he proved so many times. So now the concept of protecting him, how do we even engage in that thought process? So the word that's very important that we'll discuss today is Yogamaya. So this idea of protecting Krishna, it is due to the influence of Yogamaya. And we'll talk about some of the pastimes where the devotees were in the mood of trying to protect Krishna. We know that in the mood of the gopis, they have this incredible mood of love and then in separation from Krishna. But here, this mood of protecting Krishna, we're going to talk about. And in the purport, let me go back to the purport again here. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions about the agnostics. One who equates Narayan, even with great exalted demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma, is a pasandi, and an agnostic. So what is that agnostic? I just looked it up. A person who believes that nothing is known or can be known of the existence or nature of God or of anyone or anything beyond material phenomena. A person who claims neither faith nor disbelief in God. So that is the kind of person who doesn't understand at all the position of Krishna. So therefore they don't have the opportunity to increase their faith because they don't have any. They have no faith in the existence of God or non-existence of God. But the devotees have faith. So how is it that devotees who began to understand the position of the Supreme Lord can think in terms of protecting him? So I thought one point would be, especially for us, because we always want to make sure that we understand these things in context. So for us, how do we exhibit this mood of protecting the Lord? Because we're reading every day so many amazing things about Krishna. So it's very difficult for us to even think for a second. We're not like Mother Yashoda or Nanda Maharaj or Vasudeva Devaki or the devotees in Vrindavan who see Krishna as his little baby. They want to take care of him. We're in this Kali Yuga, in the midst of Kali Yuga, and we're trying to become Krishna conscious. So Srila Prabhupada has given us this opportunity to think in terms of protecting Krishna. We have deity worship. It's the same Krishna, but manifested with the materials that we can see. They're transcendently spiritualized by his presence when the spiritual master invites the Lord to reside in that deity form. So it's the same Lord. So we have that responsibility to protect the Lord. I remember my service as a brahmachari was protecting the deities at night, sleeping in the temple room. That was a tradition. I don't know if it still happens anywhere, but we used to sleep in the temple room. And the mood was protecting the Lord. And it was actually very important. So I had a rude awakening one morning around, 3 a.m. Someone broke into our temple and they were carrying a shotgun. This is a true story. And the temple authorities had given me a gun, a 357 Magnum. If you know that gun, is a very big gun, but I don't know how to shoot a gun. But anyway, I had that gun in a cabinet that we had in the temple room for protecting the deities. We were trained that our lives, if necessary, we would have to sacrifice our lives to protect the deities. So this persons or persons, it was three people. They came in and the guy pointed a gun at me. I'm lying in my sleeping bag. And he said, if you move, I'll shoot you. And I was like, oh my God, what to do? So I was frozen. And anyway, they stole some things from the temple room and then they left. But I had that realization that yes, there is a need to protect the deities. I know in Philadelphia, I think I see Sukada. Yeah, Sukada was there. I remember when we had our company years ago that we installed some security cameras in the temple and you could see them from different places. I think, Drona, you might have that facility now. So we can see, because that is the move that we have to protect the deities. They're not stone, they're not marble, they're not wood. Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we are given that wonderful facility to think of protecting Krishna, even though we know he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supreme Bhagavan. So that's just one meditation that we can all have, that we have the opportunity to think in terms of protecting the deities, protecting Krishna, just like the residents of Vrindavan. So Yogamaya, the Lord's internal potency. Now, Yogamaya and Mahamaya, and we'll study a little bit here from a couple of references I have. So we know about Mahamaya, and all the living beings in the material world are under the spell of Mahamaya. But how does Yogamaya relate to the conditioned souls? That is very interesting. That's why I was just fascinated how Yogamaya is also involved in the consciousness of the conditioned souls. Let's read a little bit about that. And this is a letter from Srila Prabhupada to Madhusudana in 1968. Subhadra is Yogamaya, Srila Prabhupada says. The spiritual energy is called Yogamaya, and she has 16 different expansions. Out of these 16 expansions, Subhadra is one. The Mahamaya of the material energy is also expansion of the energy of Yogamaya. And both Yogamaya and Mahamaya are equally important to Krishna. And then Prabhupada gives all these wonderful, we may say, mundane examples. And he would sometimes say, this is a mundane example, material example, just to help us understand so we can internalize these points. So he says, as much as any government department is equally important for functioning of the government. So think about that. One department that we all know is the, say, police department. And in that department, there is immense suffering for the people who are put into that circumstance, who have to go to jail or prison. Very bad situation, very suffering situation. Many devotees have gone to jail for the service of Srila Prabhupada through book distribution. We've been arrested and we've had to go to those places. So yes, they're very difficult. But think of the jail department and the education department. The education department, generally speaking, is a very nice place for children and young people and college students. It's a very wonderful place compared to the jail. But they're equally important to the government because the government puts practically more money, which I don't like, into the penal system than they do into the educational system. They can find money immediately. I don't want to get political, but it just upsets me. They can immediately find billions and billions and billions of dollars to build prisons. But then the schools have to beg for books and musical instruments, and it's horrible. So that shows that the government puts at least some level of equality in terms of the education department and the penal system. So Prabhupada is saying the government, it considers all the departments to be important. The police department may be horrible for the criminals, but to the government, it is a department as good as university departments. Similarly, Mahamaya is horrible to the conditioned soul. But to the liberated soul, there is no fear of Mahamaya because he is protected by Yogamaya. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita when Krishna said the following, I am not visible to everyone on account of being curtained by Yogamaya. End of that quote. So when a conditioned soul surrenders unto Krishna, the Yogamaya winds up the curtain and Krishna is visible to the devotee. So I'm going to come back to that. I just want to just touch on that verse that Prabhupada is referring to in Bhagavad Gita chapter 7:25. Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrita mudoyam nabi janati loko mam ajam avyayam. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by my internal potency, and therefore they do not know that I am unborn and infallible. Purport, just a little bit of it. It may be argued that since Krishna was visible to everyone when he was present on this earth, how can it be said that he is not manifest to everyone? But actually, he was not manifest to everyone. When Krishna was present, there were only a few people who could understand him to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this Yogamaya interacts with the conditioned souls by making it impossible for them to see Krishna. Maya, Mahamaya, is keeping the conditioned soul in illusion, thinking themselves to be the body, thinking themselves to be the enjoyer, but the Yogamaya is acting differently. She's not allowing them to see Krishna, even though Krishna was there. Even though Krishna is right in front of us. Krishna's on the altar, Supreme Personality of God. People come in, they see the deities, they still can't understand, here is Krishna. And even ourselves, who are practicing Krishna consciousness, we sometimes don't quite understand the presence of the Lord. The Lord is in our heart as a super soul. We all know that. Sarvasya chaham hridishani visto matasmatir ganamapohanam cha. He's in our heart. And we have a difficult time remembering that throughout the course of our day and throughout the course of our devotional life. It's not that easy. Great yogis and meditators, they try to come to that realization. In ourselves, who are practicing bhakti yoga, sadhana bhakti, we have to admit that we have difficulty with that. So we're gradually coming out of the influence of this Mahamaya. Bhagavad Gita explains very nicely. What is that verse? Mam chayo vavicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunam samatitaitam brahma bhuyai kalpate. So by this practicing devotional service, we gradually rise above the influence of this Mahamaya. And then the Yogamaya, which is so special. Yogamaya, she actually, on one side, she's keeping the conditioned souls from understanding Krishna. Prabhupada says this curtain. She pulls down the curtain, and they can't see really Krishna in his real transcendental nature, even though he might be in front of them. So then we also have the circumstance where Arjuna was riding on a chariot with Krishna. Krishna's driving the chariot, and he's not understanding that Krishna is Supreme Personality of God, at least at that point in the beginning of the Kurukshetra battle. And later on, Krishna reveals everything to him. So he's being controlled by who? So this question came up in one of our, I think our Gita class that we have in Philadelphia. This question came up and we were discussing that. Was Arjuna in Mahamaya or was Arjuna in Yogamaya when he was not understanding Krishna to be the Supreme Lord? Does anyone on the call, do you remember that? Vijay remembers that. So anyone else, what can you say? Was Arjuna in Yogamaya or Mahamaya when he didn't understand properly who Krishna was? Anyone?
Yoga.
Except Vijay, because she knows. Okay, Krishna Kirtan, I saw you there.
I mean, there are two things. One is if Mahamaya means he's out of his own ignorance, and Yogamaya is if he's under the influence of Krishna, he doesn't want to reveal his devotee to know about him, then it will be Yogamaya. That's my understanding.
Thank you.
When you're under the influence of Antaranga Sakti.
Very nice. Dronacharya?
When Srila Prabhupada says, I'll have to spend a minute or two trying to find it, saying that, the Krishna placed Arjuna in this situation. He created this situation. Arjuna is an eternal associate of the Lord. So I'd say it'd have to be Yogamaya.
Okay.
Placed him under.
Anyone else? Any comments? Gita, I see that you're there. Welcome. Any thoughts? So Prabhupada actually says that when Arjuna was thinking of his family in the distressful condition, he was in Mahamaya. And then when he was thinking of Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's in Yogamaya. So this Mahamaya makes us forget and makes us identify with the body. So whenever that's going on, that's Mahamaya. But then when Mahamaya puts her curtain down for the conditioned souls, they're experiencing Yogamaya. But they're experiencing another aspect of Yogamaya. So then it goes on more here. This is really, I was just fascinated when I was reading it. And this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Mo Vishaye Gopi Ganer Upapaite Bhave Yogamaya Karibeka Apana Prabhave. The influence of Yogamaya will inspire the gopis with the sentiment that I am their paramour. So all these words are significant. Inspire and sentiment. So let's go a little deeper. Yogamaya is the name of the internal potency that makes the Lord forget himself. And that made me stop. Yogamaya is the name of the internal potency that makes the Lord forget himself and become an object of love for his pure devotee in different transcendental mellows. You just can't even fathom God forgetting himself. It's almost like that doesn't make any sense. But in order for him to enjoy with his devotees, he has to forget himself. He has to forget that he's the supreme personality of Godhead. All living entities are emanating from him. The wise who knows this, engage in my devotional service, the yogis, and all these incredible things that are, we could say they have to preoccupy the mind, the Lord's mind. Of course it doesn't, but all these things that he's responsible for. And he says in the Gita, if I were not to work, all these worlds would be put into ruination. I am the seed-giving father of all living entities, Bijamam Sarvabhutanam, all these big concepts. Now he has to go play with the gopis and put all that stuff aside. Do we have any examples of that in the mundane world? Of course we do. Say, Prabhupada used to give that example of the judge, I believe. In the judge in the court, he's a big person. But when he comes home, the child is riding on his back like a horsey. Come on, horsey, horsey, horsey. And he has to forget his big position as a judge so he can reciprocate with his child. I'm sure it's the same thing for a king or president or a great leader. Someone like Bill Gates, one of the richest men in the world, so much money and power. But when he's with his family, he's a different person. So Krishna, why would he be why would Krishna be restricted from having that wonderful reciprocation with others? So in order for him to have that reciprocation, he stops thinking about himself being Krishna. And that is Yogamaya. Yogamaya is the name of the internal potency that makes the Lord forget himself. Makes the Lord forget himself. That means Yogamaya, in one sense, is more powerful than the Lord, because it is the Lord. It's it's his internal potency. It's him doing it to himself. It's not someone else doing it to him. It's him doing it to himself. And when that Yogamaya internal potency comes within this material world, Radharani becomes the personal manifestation of that internal potency. We know she's more powerful than Krishna. Madan Mohan, then Madan Mohan Mohani. Radharani is more powerful than Krishna because she's the only one that can fully attract Krishna in such a way. Then it says, this Yogamaya potency creates a spiritual sentiment. As I mentioned, that word sentiment is in the verse. This Yogamaya potency creates a spiritual sentiment in the minds of the damsels of Braj, by which they think of Lord Krishna as their paramour. This sentiment is never to be compared to mundane, illicit sexual love. So then the residents of Vrindavan have to also be put into somewhat of an illusion. And as they begin to understand sometimes Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead, as in the case of Mother Yashoda, she didn't see her son as Supreme Personality of Godhead. She stayed in that mood of protecting Krishna. That was always her mood. When Krishna went to the forest in the daytime with the boys, practically everyone was in anxiety that Krishna might hurt his feet, Krishna might, something may happen, and so many demons are coming. So they were always in that mood of protecting Krishna. So that was by the potency of Yogamaya. They're not able to see. That's not like the Yogamaya working on the conditioned soul. Prabhupada makes another point. This idea of fear for Krishna, fearing for his safety, doesn't happen in the spiritual world because those things are not like that. There's a different kind of fear, Prabhupada explains. That Yogamaya covering for the devotees, it's the separation fear, Prabhupada explained. They're afraid of losing Krishna's association. In the mundane world, in the material world, when Krishna was here, they were afraid of the demons. There are no demons in the spiritual world for them to be afraid of. There's only this kind of maybe idea in the back of the brain just to sort of enhance the pastimes. But in the material world, they were actually afraid every second for Krishna's safety. The spiritual world is that fear of separation from Krishna. We know when Krishna left Vrindavan with Vidura, how the gopis were practically falling on the ground. They were practically dying, losing their bodies. I was just reading last night in the Krishna book when Uddhava went to Vrindavan, and then Uddhava stayed up all night talking to Nanda Maharaj, and his chariot was parked there. So when the gopis got up and they saw that chariot, they thought, oh my God, not Vidura, oh my God, my brain just went dead, not Uddhava, Akrura. They thought that Akrura had come back to do more mischief because Akrura took Krishna away. So they were very confused. Is that Akrura's chariot? Who is that? Because they hadn't seen Uddhava yet. Uddhava actually looks a lot like Krishna. So he actually pacified the gopis. But the gopis were still so much in anxiety about Krishna being gone that they thought, oh my God, this Uddhava has come back. I'm not Uddhava, but this Akrura has come back to cause us trouble. So that is the madness of the devotees when they're totally absorbed under the illusion, the spell of Yogamaya, the transcendental so-called illusion. That's how powerful Yogamaya is. So again, keep that distinction in your mind. Yogamaya acts on the conditioned souls to pull the curtain down so that they can't see Krishna in his true form. But for the devotees, she acts in such a way to allow them to interact with Krishna, not as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just like that pastime of Mother Yashoda looking in Krishna's mouth when all the boys had complained that Krishna had eaten dirt. And then Krishna said, no, I haven't done that, mommy. And she said, oh, no, you must have done it because even Balaram said you did it. Your brother said you did it. So you must have done it. So no, mommy, I haven't done it. But if you think I've done it, then you look inside my mouth and you check and see. So then we know the pastime. When he opened his mouth, he showed him how he saw all creation, all the elements, all this powerful stuff. And she forgot about little baby Krishna as her loving little child. And she started to feel this whole awe and reverence, which Krishna did not want from her. Krishna wanted motherly affection from her. Krishna wanted her to chastise him, chasing him with the little stick, telling him, don't do this. He liked that. He enjoyed that. Yes, he really enjoyed that. So when Mother Yashoda was phasing into this other understanding, Krishna quickly closed his mouth so she could go back to thinking, I'm his mother. Let me take care of him. Krishna likes that. It's like Prabhupada explains that everyone in the material world is asking God for something. Give us our daily bread, protect us from this, and asking God to do something. But God, he likes to be, he likes to be on the other end, asking for it from his mother, playing with his friends. Everyone's always asking him on the spiritual level or religious level. So God, sometimes he likes to be in that position where he's dependent upon his devotees. It's a very sweet position to be dependent upon the mercy of his devotees, although he doesn't need it. So in the Nectar Devotion, at this stage, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of the pastimes of Krishna where devotees exhibited this mood of protection. And I'm going to give you a couple examples, and hopefully some of you can think of some. There are many pastimes in the Krishna book especially, but this is from the Nectar of Devotion. Examples of pastimes where devotees were absorbed in the mood of protecting the Lord. Nectar devotion. Another example of being stunned took place when Krishna was surrounded by various wrestlers in the sacrificial arena of Kamsa. His mother Devaki then became stunned and her eyes dried up when she saw Krishna among the wrestlers. So we know that pastime. Was it Mustika and Chanura? And Kamsa has specifically put them there to kill Krishna if the elephant Kuvalayapida didn't kill him. So he put this elephant in the beginning, powerful elephant. Hopefully that the elephant would kill Krishna and Balaram. But if they didn't, then they had these two powerful wrestlers. And that's an amazing pastime. Take some time and read it, where the ladies especially were very upset because those wrestlers were really big men and Krishna and Balaram was just young, very young boys practically. So they thought, this is not fair. This is not fair. So they were in anxiety. So Devaki was stunned when she saw that. Another part, Devaki was Krishna's natural mother. To protect Krishna from Kamsa, Vasudeva brought him to Yashoda in Vrindavan, where he exhibited his childhood pastimes. Later, he returned to Mathura and vanquished Kamsa, the incident that's referred to here. So Vasudeva, to protect Krishna, took him away from Mathura to Vrindavan. So he's in that mood. I have to protect my son. But Krishna had revealed to them when he first appeared, he appeared not as little Krishna, but he appeared like Vishnu with 4 hands. We already read that. Fully decorated. Everything was there. But still in that mood of protecting because of the influence of Yoga Maya on that. So those are just 2 examples. Anyone else have an example of a pastime where devotees were absorbed in the mood of protecting Krishna? Anyone? Let's share in the nectar. You want me to call on you? Will Drodacharya?
I was thinking of the Kaliya serpent and the Leela, where they saw that Krishna was being basically swallowed by the coils of they already saw that so many of the cowherd boys and had been fell that I don't know if they died or were sick or they were laying there, and they saw that the coils have been swallowing basically Lord Krishna, and they, I think Mother Yashoda fainted because of it. That just brought him extreme anxiety.
Yes. Yes.
It's another beautiful Leela to see how their emotions and affection, emotions, based on their affection, became so intensified.
Yes. Excellent. Someone else? More nectar?
I was just thinking about the Govardhan Leela, where even though Krishna was able to, hold the whole Govardhan hill by his tiny little finger, but still the residents, they took sticks and they were holding, thinking that, oh, we need to protect Krishna, otherwise the hill is going to fall on his head.
That's a beautiful past, right? And there's actually a painting. You can see that. They're all holding their little canes up like that. And Krishna's holding the hill on his little pinky left finger. And they see that, but still they said, no, we have to help him, have to protect him. It's amazing. Anyone else? That was sweet. At least one more.
On the same aspect, on the same Leela, when Gopal was buried in the dirt, in the earth, with Madhavendra Puri's pastime, he could have come out. If he wants to be manifest, he could have manifested himself. But he was dependent on Madhavendra Puri. Please come and rescue me. Take me out. I'm suffering in this. So as a deity form, he was creating dependency on that.
Very nice, very beautiful. Thank you, Krishna Kirtan. So we can see from these pastimes, unless someone else has one more, we can see from these pastimes that devotees under the influence of Yoga Maya. So another question becomes, are we under that influence of Yoga Maya in terms of our relationship with Krishna presently? And that's, I don't want to venture too far down that quote unquote rabbit hole because you can't speak for every devotee's relationship with Krishna. So Mahamaya, does it affect us in the execution of our devotional service? I remember a class one time from Hridayananda Maharaj, and it's actually, they made a audio cassette. It's entitled, How the Modes Rule Our Day. And he broke it down very, he's very good at breaking it down like that. How during the different parts of our day, each one of us, how Maya affects us, Mahamaya. Okay, when we're fully surrendered, then Yoga Maya takes over. But now we're still being affected by this Mahamaya. As Prabhupada said, Arjuna, when he was thinking about his family members, absorbed in that anxiety, that's why he wanted to leave the battlefield. Prabhupada said that was Mahamaya for Arjuna. So don't think for a second, we're not better than Arjuna, right? No, we're not better than Arjuna. So we definitely can be affected by this Mahamaya, to be absorbed in our body, thinking we're this body, always trying to arrange for this body. And I was hearing this morning or reading this morning about, Vidura's instructions to Dhritarashtra. Vidura is trying to convince Dhritarashtra to leave the house of the Pandavas. This is after Kurukshetra battle is over. He's an old man. He's living at the mercy of these people that he tried to kill. And then Vidura actually says, you're living like a dog, like a kept dog. Come out from this. He said the signs are all there. And then Prabhupada explains the symptoms of old age, losing he said your liver stops working properly, your teeth are falling out, everything is happening to you, your hair is falling out. Don't you see the signs? But Prabhupada said in order to live comfortably, he didn't want to leave. Even though the signs are there, still he was thinking, I can live on. And that's why when the question was put to Yudhisthira, what's the most amazing thing? And he said that people are dying and they think all around them people are dying. He's thinking, I won't die. So that is the effect of this Mahamaya on the conditioned soul. So we have to gauge in our own lives, how much am I being affected by the influence of Mahamaya? And then I let it become so entangled or intertwined in my thinking that I forget my Krishna consciousness. So the only way that we can remain free from this Mahamaya's effect is to always chant Hare Krishna. The Hare Krishna mantra can remove that curtain of Maya, especially the Mahamaya side. And as we become more Krishna conscious, Prabhupada explains, let me read one more thing. I want to share that before we finish. This is one morning walk in 1974. Giriraj, who we know as Giriraj Swami, he says, but the sentiment of anxiety or fear for Krishna, is that sentiment in Goloka? Prabhupada says, no. There is no such thing. He says, that is separation. Just like gopis, they are full of anxiety. Oh, Krishna has gone to the pasturing ground. Their anxiety is there. Just like Rukmini, she was thinking, oh, Krishna may not give me up. He is talking in this way. She fainted. So anxiety is there. So that the anxiety is that one may not be separated from Krishna. That is the anxiety. And actually there is no separation, but the feeling of separation out of ecstatic love. Just like one who has got love for the other person, beloved, he always thinks like that. My beloved may not be separated from me. So Prabhupada is giving that really deep view that this is the anxiety for the devotee. But unfortunately, due to Mahamaya's effects, we're in anxiety about all the material things. And not to make light of situations like now, we're all being affected by the COVID-19, and that's creating a lot of anxiety for devotees. But I'm hearing more and more how the devotees are taking this very difficult situation, and it's increasing their Krishna consciousness because they want to be at the temple. It's like Janmashtami. I know there was a lot of anxiety on Janmashtami. Right, Drona? Drona was trying to manage the temple and have a nice festival because people with anxiety want to come and see the temple. Practically have to take a baseball bat to knock them away. No, no, you can't come in. It's too many at one time, because you can only have 15 or 20 or 25. But did you feel that anxiety, Drona, for during that festival, that people wanted to come and see the deities? Is that correct?
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
So as managers, we have to recognize that's Krishna consciousness. We don't want to, we don't want to criticize that. We just try to organize in such a way to facilitate that anxiety that the devotees have. And that's the business of Yogamaya. Yogamaya is facilitating, as it said earlier, that sentiment, helping to create that sentiment so Krishna can have these wonderful exchanges with devotees. So we have this little glimpse where devotees are in anxiety to come and see the deities. Like when I finish here today and take my little breakfast, I'm in anxiety to go see our deities here in Atlanta, Shri Radha Madan Maha, because I hadn't seen them since last week. So I have a whole plan to go see them today because I'm missing them. I want to see them and see Radharani and see Gorni Tai like that, So Krishna's given me a little taste. So that's what we all have. The secret is to increase that taste. And to increase that taste, Krishna creates situations like what we have now with COVID, where we're separated from each other physically, and we're separated from going to the temple regularly. Everything is done by Krishna. Can anyone argue this point? That COVID is, acting separately from Krishna? Anyone? Anyone want to make a counter argument? Any devil's advocate? No. COVID is under the control of Krishna. Yes, raise your hand if you agree.
Yes.
I can't see all the other ones because your cameras are off, but anyway, it's under the control of Krishna. And why would Krishna do something to devotees to really cause them unnecessary pain? He's doing that in order to increase the love. He's using this circumstance for us to increase our love. Therefore, we pray as Kunti Devi prayed, my Lord, let this suffering happen again and again and again. Because while suffering, I'm forced to remember you. And by remembering you, I'll no longer have to see repeated birth and death. So I'm suffering this time. Okay, this lifetime I may have to suffer. But if I can just remember you, by the influence of this suffering, and because I'm thinking of you, I'm cutting down all my karmic activities, and I can be allowed to be at your lotus feet forever. So that's how the devotee sees all the suffering that happens. That's why Krishna, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, tells Arjuna, he gives him that secret formula. Matra sparsa takonteya, stitosna sukadukada, agama payano nichas, tam titikshasva bharata. Learn to tolerate, Arjuna. Why learn to tolerate? Learning means practice. So practice tolerating. I'm going to send you lots and lots of suffering, Arjuna, so you can practice tolerating and just remember me. So let us keep everything in perspective, that Krishna's Yogamaya is there to block the conditioned souls from being able to see Krishna, but she's on the other side creating the sentiment so devotees won't see Krishna as God, so they can reciprocate with him and in loving exchanges in the 5 kinds of rasas. But then Mahamaya, her business is to keep the conditioned souls in illusion about themselves, not about Krishna, but about themselves being this body and part of this material energy. So I'll stop there and see if anyone has a question or a comment. Haribol Purnamasi, I see you there. Haribol. Anyone?
It's a very
I have
nice
a
discussion,
question.
Prabhu. Oh, go ahead.
Vrindavaneshwari, go ahead, Vrindavaneshwari.
Yeah, I was just really appreciating some of the things you were saying about Mahamaya and Yogamaya. And this came up in class maybe like 4 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago. In the beginning of the pandemic, we were discussing Mahamaya and Yogamaya and the different potencies. And there's a really nice verse in Brahma Samhita that describes how Mahamaya, when, she kind of, she keeps the jivas in that material conception, but when the jiva, I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it in front of me, but when the jiva realizes Krishna and makes a turn toward wanting to have Krishna consciousness and to surrender to Krishna, then Mahamaya becomes kind of the instrument to deliver because by Yogamaya becomes the instrument to deliver the soul to Krishna. And so that Mahamaya and Yogamaya are kind of operating in our lives, and that, Ed uses this quote from Ravindra Swarup Prabhu often, and it sticks with me a lot. He's like, every day is either a yes to God or a no to God. And it's so simple, but it's also true, because if it's a no to God, then Mahamaya is governing your day, right?
Yes.
But if you're saying yes to God, then then Yogamaya can, according to Brahma Samhita and how that's describing Yogamaya, Mahamaya, the relationship between those two potencies is that Yogamaya will then take form and guide you and direct your activities in taking you to Krishna in that process. So, and some days we might wake up and just be like, just be completely immersed in material activities. And so there seems to be a dance. I just kind of see it as this like dance until we're completely surrendered.
Beautiful. Thank you. That's beautiful. Like a dance.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Anyone else? Comment, question?
I had a question, Prabhu.
Yes, Gita.
So you said that Yoga Maya, puts the block. So what should a devotee do to remove that block?
Well, that Yoga Maya is that curtain, like Prabhupada says, it's like a curtain coming down, preventing the conditioned souls from seeing Krishna in his true manifestation. So the question is, how does Yoga Maya affect the devotee? How is she affecting us? And I try to give a couple of personal, say, examples of how we have the sentiment to want to protect the deities. We have the sentiment about, Krishna in so many different ways. So those are influences from the Yogamaya. So Prabhupada said, when you're thinking of the material energy to enjoy the material energy, that is Mahamaya. And when you're gradually starting to think about Krishna and his activities and his pastimes, and you're becoming spontaneous about that thinking of Krishna, then we're starting to feel the effects of Yogamaya. And then Yogamaya specifically creates that sentiment, as Srila Prabhupada says, where the gopis can see Krishna as their lover, and Yashoda, and they can all see Krishna as their child. But then how are we seeing Krishna? That's the real question, Gita. How are we seeing Krishna? Are we afraid of Krishna? Are we, in the beginning, we don't have that deep of a relationship with Krishna. And how long is that beginning? That beginning could be many, many years of our devotional life before we actually start to feel Krishna, in a deeper relationship. For the most part, as Prabhupada said about our deity worship, even though we're worshiping Radha and Krishna, we're worshiping in the mood of awe and veneration, just by the way we decorate the deities. Because in Vrindavan, Golok Vrindavan, even when Krishna was here, he was very simply dressed. Some flowers and little dhoti and just very simple, little prasadam in his hand. But we do all this opulent dressing. So the question becomes, why do we do all this opulent dressing of the deities? Because if we don't, we will misunderstand Krishna and we will become sahajiyas. Okay, we'll become sahajiyas. We'll think, oh, I'll just put some little thing on Krishna and tie like that because he's like my little friend. We shouldn't act like that. That's the natural transition. And your point is very good, Mother Gita. The natural transition from where we are now, being still affected by Mahamaya, to coming to that point where we can actually, that curtain is lifted and we can see Krishna, is all by the power of devotional service. And Krishna explains that. What is that verse? I'm trying to remember the Bhajitam Priti Purvakam. What's the beginning of that verse? Bhajitam Priti Purvakam? Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam? Who knows? Tesam Satayuta.
Tesham Satayutanam
Bhajitam
Bhajatam
Priti
Purvakam.
Purvakam. Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. Yena Mama Puyantite. And also, Brahma Samhita, as Vrindavaneshwari was saying about Brahma Samhita. What is that? Not Chintamani. when our eyes are smeared with the salve of love,
Premanjana
Premanjana
Charita.
Charita Bhakti Velochanena Santatsadaiva Hridayesu Velokayanti Yanshaima Sundaramachinta Gunasarupam Govindamari Purusham. So that it's on us. If we develop this love for Krishna, then Maya, Yoga Maya, she lifts that curtain and we'll be able to see Krishna in his true form. So therefore, Rupa Goswami says the perfection of the eyes is to see Krishna and Balaram entering the forest of Vrindavan. We know we haven't gotten there yet. Right, Vijay? Have we gotten there yet? No, we hadn't gotten there yet. That's the perfection, though. That is the perfection. And that will come by this constant practice of devotional service. So, what do you think, Mother Gita? Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you.
Anyone else?
Prabhu, the more we are separated, the more we miss a lot.
Yes. Yes. Like I missed you so much when you were not coming to the Gita class. I said, where's my BJ?
I mean, I miss it.
So really, we miss our association with each other, right? Isn't that right, Purnamasi? We missed her so much, right, Purnamasi?
I will be coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This Tuesday, I was watching Abhay Charan's movie.
Oh.
10 minutes I missed, and then I said, okay, I'm late, I thought I was immersed in that movie, Abhay Charan's movie.
No, that's beautiful.
It came in the YouTube, so I was watching that. I remember that time and everything Purnamasi told me, and I'm really, but I hear all the class and everything.
But see, that's the thing. All these little things that we have available to us, classes, association, whatever it is, and then you can gauge yourself how much you're attached to those things as opposed to being attached to material things. You follow? In other words, if we start looking and say, well, am I attached to reading the Bhagavatam, especially reading Prabhupada's books? You have to develop some attachment for that to the point where you can't wait to turn the page and see and read. And that is, again, the Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 2, text 17. Srimvata Sokata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana. That whole concept of Krishna seeing that you're excited to hear about his pastimes that are glorious, virtuous. And when he sees that, he's in your heart already. Then he starts helping you. Like Mother Gita was asking that question. So he starts removing all this misunderstanding, all this illusion, and we gradually develop a real attachment. And that's all explained, especially in the Nectar Devotion, how to develop that attachment.
Prabhu, I have this.
Yes, please. Yes.
I like that Shravanam and Kirtanam more than reading alone. And association with the devotees and discussing like this.
Yes.
I come to know a lot.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And reading myself alone, and I don't know, half understanding, half not understanding. I don't know. Shravanam and Kirtanam is really more.
That's beautiful. Prabhupada says that the reading is also Shravanam Kirtanam, and classes is also Shravanam Kirtanam. It's all part of the same. Yeah, it's all part of the same, but it's a practice. It's a practice of, like, reading Prabhupada's books requires practice. In the beginning, it's not so, maybe you're not so attached to that. But if you continue doing it, I mean, I'm telling you, after all these years, just in this last year, some things are happening in terms of my reading. It's becoming more and more. And I see it I just watch it every year. It increases. And I tell people all the time, I really didn't like to get into the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita years ago, because it's just all those names and all these, let's get to the second chapter. Let's get to the third chapter. But somehow or another, in the last couple of years, that first chapter has become like one of my favorite chapters. I'm the same person, I guess. But somehow Krishna's opened it up a little bit. It's like, oh my God, there's so much nectar in that first chapter. Then I used to have a problem with the rasa dance in the Krishna book. Oh my God, how can I get to this? Because it's a very long part of the Krishna book. When I just finished it recently, there's just so much nectar. It's not the book, it's me. My consciousness is not elevated enough to appreciate. And again, to Mother Gita's point, so that Krishna's mercy that Yogamaya starts to lift that curtain a little bit for us. We just keep practicing, keep doing it, and then lift it up a little bit more. Krishna says, the Dami Buddhi Yogam Sam. Bhajitam Priti Purvakam. Just keep serving with love. The key is to serve with affection and love. Whatever service we have, doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter. Do it with attention. Love means attention. Pay attention when you're serving Krishna, and then Krishna will open up more and more. You'll begin to see him more and more.
And I don't know whether I should say thanks to COVID-19 or not, but I am blessed with all these Zoom calls and the association with devotees, and then morning till night I'm going through all these classes.
You're
so
blessed.
Listening to, and that is very much interesting.
Very nice, very nice. So
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Oh, Hare Krishna, Sudevi. Go ahead.
Bhagavatam 10.1.25 purport. Prabhupada explains that Yogamaya and Mahamaya is it just like electricity. It's the same. Sometimes it's cooling, it acts as a cooling, sometimes it's heating, but it's the same electricity. Depending on the circumstances, sometimes it's refrigerator, sometimes it's heater, sometimes it's air conditioner, but electricity is the same. So
Yes.
it's explained very nicely, the distinction.
Yes, thank you for giving that point. Just like they use electricity to kill people with the electric chair in the prisons. Same electricity that you use in your home to make nice offerings and this and that. They use that same electricity to kill people in the jail. So it's the same. So that energy is the same energy of the Lord, but acting differently in different circumstances. Thank you very much. Sukada, was that you? Anyone else?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. This is Flavia. I was going to thank you very much for an enlightening lesson. You always give such enlightening lessons. It's like the wisdom just pushes out so softly, but you make very strong points. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
The point about the Maya and the yoga, it was much clearer for me. I found that because of the pandemic, I'm depending more instead of calling someone, asking questions. The lessons that I'm learning from all of the groups and the classes, it's helping me to depend more on Krishna. I'm developing a deeper association with my deity. And, my Tulsi plant has been flourishing. It's just amazing. And it's just amazing, everything. And even now, looking at different audiobooks, the Krishna book is actually on an audiobook, and I was having such migraines I couldn't read, so I started searching, and I was like, oh, thank you. So it's, in one way or the other, we can, I guess, get out of the Maya and feel Krishna and just keep doing our japa meditation all through the day, singing praises and listening to lessons. And it's just a beautiful thing. Thank you for pointing out. Those differences were very, very clear to me today. Thank you so much.
Okay, Hare Krishna, Fabio. Sukada, maybe the last question.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances for Prabhupada.
Hi, Prabhupada.
This is very, very wonderful. In fact, I have a talk to give in next 5 minutes, and I was thinking, what can I do in terms of the children, especially affecting during this pandemic time? So the way you described, or this verse was describing about Yogamaya and Mahamaya, this pandemic, I think we can take it in two aspects of it. Mahamaya, because of Mahamaya, this pandemic came so that all the illusionary material energies and all these things we understand. Okay, and then once we become more Krishna conscious or God conscious, then the Yogamaya kicks in. So, it is not a comment. I wanted to ask you a question on this, that how do you relate this pandemic situation which we are going, not only for devotees, but also for non-devotees, those who are in the path of becoming God conscious. And I've seen this, that because of pandemic, a lot of people, those who are not those who were not God conscious in the past, they became more God conscious now
Mm.
because they started believing that, wow, there is some type of power which has made this happen. So can we, in the material world, for lack of understanding, we can relate this both Yogamaya and Mahamaya and see how, how this pandemic can be dovetailed there?
Oh, yeah. And I'll make it brief because I know we're coming to the end of our time. Prabhupada says, and I'll give you two examples. Prabhupada says this, and the Christians say that. Prabhupada says, suffering is a symptom of God's love. Try to remember that. Suffering, the exact words from Srila Prabhupada. Suffering is a symptom of God's love. Christians say when God wants to send you a present, he wraps it up in a problem. It's like, you wrap a present in paper and all that. So the Lord is sending you a present, a gift in the form of coronavirus, but it looks like a horrible problem. And he's saying, don't depend on this material world. At any moment, you could be dead. Kamala dala jala jivana talamala, just like a water on a lotus leaf. Any second you can fall off. So he's reminding us, and as you pointed out, Sukadai, accurately, that people are becoming a little bit more introspective about life because they're seeing the government can't protect us. My body can't protect me. My family can't. People are dying in some families, 7, 8, 9 people die in the same family. So the family can't protect. I just heard Prabhupada say this morning, what is the use of an army of soldiers if they're all blind? Useless. So you have this whole army of people, things in the material world that you're depending on. Now they're being shattered. So this is the perfect time to preach. Perfect time to preach right now. Because people have no answers. The government can't answer it. Doctors don't know what to do. So we just bring them Krishna consciousness the best that we can. But we can't tell them that, all the problems will be solved. The real solution to the problem, and as the Bhagavatam in the 5th canto, Lord Rishabdev to his sons, he's saying, your body is your problem. This body is your problem. But that's a message that's very hard to get people to understand, that your body is the cause of your suffering. Therefore, you should elevate yourself to a higher level of consciousness. So if we can help them appreciate a higher level of consciousness in the midst of this pandemic, then, there's possibility. So the pandemic is not separate from Krishna. Sukada, that's the main point. This pandemic is not separate from God. If it's coming from God, it has a purpose. I was telling my grandson recently, some of you know that he had a terrible car accident, but I looked him in the eyes. I said, Antonio, why did God save you? And that made more sense to him than anything else I could have said. Because he's lying there. He can't really move, can't go anywhere. And I said, why did God save you? You could have died. Why did he save you? So he started thinking, he said, yeah, I kind of understand. I'm going to try to do something better with what God has given me. So that's the real message. God hasn't taken you yet, whoever you're talking to. God hasn't taken you yet. But why is he allowing you to live and 170,000 other people died? Why you? Maybe he has a special purpose for you. Use your life properly. That's the message that Prabhupada gave us. This one life, give it to Krishna. Use it for Krishna. So, Drona, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Take care of my sunroom.
Sure, I will. Thank you.
Drona?
Wonderful class. Thank you very much for this wonderful class. It really inspired me.
Thank you. You're on mute, Drona.
Thank you. Just as Sukada said, thank you for this wonderful class. We're very grateful for the time you've given us, your association, your leadership and direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For sharing the nectar. Every morning we have this Bhagavatam Sangha. We'd like to first welcome the devotees that are joining us, for the first time, or even not, if it's not for the first time, that come, from the Atlanta Yatra. Welcome to those devotees. They say every morning we have this Bhagavatam Sangha starting at 7:50. So you're welcome to join us every day as we continue to learn about the pastimes of Lord Krishna. This evening, we have starting at 6:50. We'll have the Brahma Samhita prayers. We're talking about the Brahma Samhita today. Vishnu Prabhu is teaching the devotees these prayers, how to chant them. And then we go over a couple shlokas. And then at 7 o'clock, we have our Srila Prabhupada book study night. We're reading from the book by Mother Vishaka, 5 years and 11 months. And I'll just say something real quick. We were talking recently in a couple different groups about training, and devotees need training, and it's all this stuff is important. And as we're part of these different sanghas, we can really see these as opportunities of devotional training. And specifically this book night, it was something that I wasn't really a part of for a couple of years, and then I started joining, and I realized that there's a lot of training that's involved, because we're learning about Srila Prabhupada and how he interacted with the devotees, how he ran the society directly from the experiences of his disciples. And there's a lot to learn in this, to really see how the movement operated, how Srila Prabhupada interacted, inspired, encouraged the devotees, directed the society. There's a lot to encourage the devotees. If you can, come and join us on Thursday evening and learn about, Srila Prabhupada through the eyes of his disciples who lived with him and served with him during that time. So with that, again, Balabhadra Prabhu, thank you so much, for your wonderful class. And we wish everybody a happy and Krishna conscious day.
No, thank you very much, Drona Prabhu, for leading this wonderful temple management. I really appreciate. Without you, I don't know. I would not have joined class every Wednesday. At least you are, putting me in shape. So thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Haribo. Haribo. Glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Oh, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Haribo, Sita. Haribo.